right, here we are. Another week. Host Mathias, or one with the returning boy,
John.
and our guest
Why, hello. It is I, Will.
is Will. Welcome back.
And though I'm sad not to have the honor of being called returning boy, that is okay. Guest is suitable.
You know, one more episode, you'll become a boy.
All right.
Yes.
Looking forward to it. Gotta
Congratulations
get
for
those hours
robot.
in the trenches in.
You gotta get through the levels. There's a payment plan you gotta go through as well.
I mean, I'm only subscribed to the silver plan, but I was told that I could get more unlockable characters on the higher tiers.
Yes.
'Cause at the moment, I've only actually been on the podcast when John and Matt were there. But I was told with a premium subscription there would be even more unlockables.
Might even get Travis, that eluding character.
And I've rolled so many times and just that my microtransactions have just never gone my way on that one.
No, that's the gotcha system for you.
No, that's what I signed up for. It's what I wanted.
Well then, there's quite a few little newses out there, so let's just jump right into it. Starting with the Sunday preview, we got the Devotees of Excess and Murder, which is wiki. Finally getting the codex, or what are they called? War scrolls or tomes? Battle books for the Hedonites of Slanesh.
In the battle tome, I'm sure there's another. We could come up with another silly version of that.
Battle scroll.
I just say codex.
You can say that, John, but that's technically incorrect.
Technically,
And that's the worst kind of incorrect to be. Don't you want to be? Don't you want to be right to the letter of the law, not just to the spirit of the law?
Damn it, rules is written here.
The battle tome. Damn it.
Battle tome.
Get your act together.
So you got their special dice, which is just
Those are amazing. Straight up. They're so cool.
Those dice I think are great. They're incredibly readable. Like that's something that Age of Sigmar special dice aren't always. Word vomit. Can't always be said that the Sigmar dice are incredibly readable for like the faction specific ones. And
Deepkin comes to mind.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I met a lot of people who really like those very peculiar dice with the strange sort of esoteric pips. But I think these solid purple and gold Slanesh dice are gonna sell out in moments.
Oh yeah.
I think this is totally the kind of dice that I sort of wish Games Workshop sold, not in limited quantity. I feel like things like this would sell very, very well.
Well, it's got my stamp of approval because at least it has a defining 1 and 6 on it instead of two symbols on it. So
two different skulls.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't have to confuse myself with that.
I did like the two skulls on the Beastman dice where there was the 6 was a gore skull and the 1 was an ungore skull. So it's very appropriate. If you are the worst gore, so you're a 1. You are beneath the 2. The pecking order on the dice was made very clear.
Well, that depends which source you're looking at. If you're looking at the lore, then yes. But if you're looking at competitive ranking, then I think it will be flipped.
That's true. Ungore is better. Gore is very bad. Do not wish to do Gore. You want to stay cheaper in points. That's more important than glory to the gods. Anyway, I didn't mean to belabor these dice, but these are great dice.
I agree. And then we're getting all the other models that they previewed off coming out
Lord
as
of
well.
Pain.
And so it's 11 new War Scrolls in this book, and 10 new models that are available on their own this time. The 11th set of models would be the Slanesh side of Dire Chasm. But this is really like this release is to make the dad joke excessive. There are many. This is 9. I believe this is 9 kits.
Yeah, they haven't done this in a while where they just drop everything for an army at once. Usually they do it in waves. Or like they do a release like this week it's gonna be these guys, next week's gonna be the rest of the guys, kind of thing.
Well, you gotta get that hype moving.
We were talking about that in cyberspace before we started recording. But it is sort of a break from form. Usually, these things are kind of spread out, but this is looks like Games Workshop might be testing the waters to see how such a release would go. To have all of these things at once, because I can't recall the last time this happened. I'm sure someone in a comment will let us know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a beautiful looking army.
I'm gonna pick some Myrmidish up for Warcry. I'm gonna combine it with my Shadespire, but it's my Darkchasm, but
Shadespire is the first expansion.
Oh my
Shadespire.
god!
How could you say something so incorrect
Again
on the air? That's
when will you learn, John?
wrong.
2 for 2.
I mean, yes, I understood what you were talking about because context, but come on.
When will you learn, John?
Pinpoint accuracy. No, but that's actually a great idea, John. The like the Myrmidesh kit also, because you can make one of like the Lash
the
Lash Twinborns or the Possessed, yeah. So you can make a lot of stuff out of just one kit to make a really fun Warcry warband. They're totally killer. But you were actually commenting that you really like the archers in this set.
Yeah, these archers are probably some of the best humans, if not the best human models Games Workshop has made up to date, in my opinion. The reason being, like, I mean, jokes about Slaanesh, being attractive aside, like the fact that there's a lot of skin showing and the fact that it's pretty well proportioned. Because a lot of the other human models, like the face is really good, but the body's usually armored, or like maybe they're like in disproportion, like Goliath for Necromunda, or they're just beneath like
very true
tons of armor. But these, like, again, because of the Slaanesh kind of like the hedonite theme, where they're not fully, that obviously you're showing a lot of skin, right? So you kind of see like the proportions are really well done on like the arms, the legs, like the abs are which is kind of cool. Some of them have abs, and the faces are really well done.
Yeah, the faces are really well done and capture sort of like a wide range of bone structure too. Like they don't all just look like sort of like carbon copies of each other, which is interesting. Like, to be said, also, like, they do a good job of like, it's not overtly, like R-rated in terms of like I think some Slaanesh aficionados like sort of just associate Slaanesh with having no clothes, and these are like like uh tastefully revealing. It's very interesting, and like they really nailed a lot of the sort of like subtle um subtle like body shapes here. Like even on several of like the male looking figures, like they don't have like the same rippling six pack abs you would see from like a Chaos Marauder or like other Chaos things. So it's really interesting. Like they've captured a lot of they're humans, and even though like they're all roughly the same sort of proportion, like the detail and the sculpt quality on the musculature is really, really impressive. How do you feel about these, Matt?
Well, I don't have as much to say as you do, but I mean, they look nice.
But perhaps that is the most important takeaway.
I mean, I'm more on the whole playing the game kind of side, It's nice if the model looks nice, because, no one really wants to play with ugly models, but I'd rather see how well they play and judge off that. But quality, they look good. If I, wasn't already pledged myself to the elves and Nagash, I would definitely probably pick some of these up.
The elves are definitely not down with the Slaanesh, so I think that makes sense.
Well, I think my elf army is, right? Isn't Daughters Kane's kind of down with Slaanesh? Stealing her power and all that?
Accidentally down with Slaanesh. It's hard to say. I think there were mistakes maybe were made.
Just a little.
I think Marathi was trying to make more Marathis and made some snake people. But hey, the snake women models are super cool.
Yes.
And then of course the Sigvald model is quite a thing. I mean, this is I've seen so much talk online about people basically taking the horns off of this and using it as a Fulgrim for Horus Heresy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. It seems like his scale is Primarch scale, but I guess we would have to wait and see when it starts making the rounds on Instagram.
Yeah, I was wondering what kind of size he was because so it's a little too big, but I mean that could
That's
just
a
be the
60.
rock that he's standing on.
I think that's a 60 mil base. I think
Yeah,
he's supposed to be really large.
yeah, I think he's
Actually,
the Prime Mark or slash Demon Prince, like same size as like the Gilliman model, for example.
yeah, I expect he's a demon prince. Also, just looking at like some of like the details and stuff, it looks like he is pretty big. Because if you look at the base, there's like skulls that are like human sized skulls on there, unless they're like tiny itty bitty baby skulls, which would be very grimdark indeed.
It could
And
be dwarf
of course, we don't condone. Well, dwarves are not that little because dwarves got like the big
halfling.
brawny skulls.
It's going down,
Halfling,
it's going down the list.
and I'm glad you pointed that out, John, because I think as we discussed in the past, the first halfling miniature in Age of Sigmar is featured in the Slanesh release.
Oh yeah,
The
with
little
Fang.
food serving man.
Yes.
Can't get a good picture of him here. But yeah.
This is the epitome of like I do not care for these. Like I would not like if you gave this to me for free, I would just return it. But it's an amazing model.
So cool.
Actually, that's a lie. I would build the Myrmidesh on the left and then just keep the rest on the sprue. Actually, I'll
Oh, we're
build
talking about Glutos or Scolion's
Yeah,
model, the sort of chariot of the sort of pleasure cruise model.
yeah.
There's so much going on. There's been a lot of these diorama models recently.
Now they gotta show off what they can do. Show why they're still a top model company.
Yeah.
They do like to do that flex.
Yeah. But you tell me, John, you don't want to use this? You don't want to bring this around, this spindly model?
No.
That's a
Some
shame.
other spindly models.
It's a shame. Well, I wanted to make a quick comment on what's his name? Siegfried?
Sigvald.
Sigvald? Yes. Fulgrim is gonna have a lot of competition to go through to beat this model, since he is a pretty good image of Fulgrim, or pretty good proxy, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could change very little, and get away with it. And I think most people would probably begrudgingly accept it, even if you did nothing. It really is just a very appropriate, like very like Slaneshi sort of like demigod model. Like there was no need for this model to come out, but I think most people are happy that it's here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely nice.
Except for those skulls on the base, they're not so happy about it.
I'm sure they had a good time before they died.
That's
Very
true.
true.
Sure they did.
Or whoever killed them had a good time. It doesn't really matter. They're not around anymore.
Someone had a good time.
So moving on to my army, we got the Daughters of Cain. It's a nice looking book. I'm very disappointed in the dice. I can just quickly get there.
Ah, interesting.
Right, because you look at the Slanesh dice. They got like that marble look and everything. Look nice, and then you come here and it's just solid red and black. Which, I mean, I know what they were going with. They were going with the blood theme, but I feel like they could have done a little bit more with this.
They are very simple. It's true. I mean, they seem. It depends how many sort of dice are in there and like what size they are, but they're not quite the slam dunk that the Slanesh ones are. Though they do seem nice.
Well, yeah.
Are you? How do you feel about the fact that they've gone with a simpler design as opposed to like the more ornate? Maybe something like the dice would be like a snake with 6 scales on it or something. Like they've gone for a very reserved design for these dice.
Wait. So you're talking about like the pips and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, how
Oh,
do you
that's
feel about
fine.
Oh,
The pips and just the Marathi sign? That's fine. I want that. I don't want what their current dice set is, which is a Marathi symbol and then a snake eating something. I hate that. You gotta go with one or the other.
mm.
I don't like this 1's a symbol and 6 is a symbol kind of thing. I think it's bad.
And so you would just prefer the actual the sort of the field that the pips are on, like the red of the dice, were a more interesting color.
Yeah, I've like I said, you look at the Slaanesh dice; they're all like marble-ish kind of looking, and this is just a solid red. I think they could have done a little bit more to the design of that, to
Yeah,
the color.
I can totally see what you're laying down there. How do you feel about the endless spells, Matt?
Oh my god, yeah, I know. I skipped over that because I thought the dice were next. But the endless spells, design wise, I like them. I'm more interested in the snake for obvious reasons. But the swords and the heart thing, the bloody hand of Cain, I'm gonna assume is what it's gonna be called.
Yeah.
Uh, they look nice. I like them.
No, I think all three of them are pretty great, but the snake is kind of one of sometimes those endless spells come along that you're sort of wonder like why isn't this a unit? Like this is so cool. It really is a great looking model though. And it's nice that it has just enough sort of magical element about it with all like the dripping blood to sell it as like a not like a supernatural thing.
Right.
But at the same time, it has like a big imposing presence. Like I could see people using this for stuff that has nothing to do with Age of Sigmar, just because it's such a cool model.
Oh yeah. I mean, I thought about using some of my endless spells. I'm like, some of these endless spells that I don't use, I could just probably make terrain out of this if I really wanted to.
Yeah, very true.
So
How do you
something.
feel about these endless? Oh, sorry, John, I cut you
Oh,
off.
I was asking your question. How I feel about these. So I think they're great, and I think when these were revealed, I mentioned that endless spells are one of the. It's really apparent that the the long the later endless spells are just more well thought out in terms of gameplay.
Hmm.
They just make more sense. Because early on, endless spells were very controversial. They were useful, but they were very like kind of like, oh gosh, I could kill my own dudes. Like they're hard to control, all that. But I play Bone Reapers, and the Bone Reapers endless spell have a rule where they don't do as much as the original endless spells in terms of damage and whatnot, but you only the Bone Reapers player can control them, so your opponent can't send them back to your guys, kind of thing.
Oh, that's
And
pretty cool.
that's an example. And I know like some of the Skaven spells were also really powerful, and kind of integral to the magic of that army when it first came out. So I think that these sets of endless spells will be very useful and not just kind of like woohoo cool magic thing afterthought. I think
I imagine you're right on that.
yeah, I think it'll be useful, be interesting, and maybe it could be really strong. Who knows? So yeah, Dark Kane players is probably a good pick if anything. If you're gonna get, if you're on the fence about endless spells, like I think they're very useful. The,
Have
the, the current ones are very useful.
have the
They
rules
they've
been
been
dropped for these yet though?
What's up?
Have the rules been dropped for these yet though?
No, so I'm just assuming. Ultimately, it's conjecture, but based on how endless spell, if you look at endless spell rules, like the later ones that come out just make more sense and are very useful.
they've
Mm-hmm.
been getting a lot better with them. Like the first set of endless cells that I can recall that like saw a lot of positive talk in terms of their usability that were faction specific were the Gloomspite endless spells. They got 4 of them, I think. And the endless spells have thankfully, I think, been on sort of an upward trend since they were first released. Though there were many in the original like Malign Sorcery set that were useful, but they tended to be the passive buff ones and not the predatory spells.
Yeah,
And this looks like 2 predatory spells and then some sort of a buffing endless spell. But I imagine they will have done a better job thinking these out because, like as you were saying, um, that they just have had more practice making rules for these, and these are hopefully going to be a good pick for Daughters of Cain players.
Hopefully, only reason I really like the snake endless spells because it just goes with my snake army. So
right.
Very true.
it'd be nice to have that just running around with all the other snakes,
Yeah.
even though I have no idea what it does. But I
I
look
think it'll be
forward to
good.
it.
I think it'll be good.
And then we got Black Library. I don't know if any of you guys care about that. It just seems to be adventure stuff.
Uh, that book series continues to be incredibly successful, as far as I know.
Yeah. Those kids books are definitely doing it because they keep making them first of all, but they also I mean they have good authors attached to them. I mean Cavan Scott, who does the 40K novels, he does a bunch of the Star Wars novels as well. Like more recently, like the Count Dooku novel for Star Wars, like he just did, and that was pretty well received. But he's written like hundreds of books. We have a friend of ours who has two young sons, and he really likes that they like the 40K novels,
Mm.
which is pretty cool. It's one of those things. Like I remember when this came out, there was something of an uproar, to say the least, about like why are they doing this? Like, I think it just to broaden the horizons of who knows about Warhammer, and like kind of giving people a chance to get into the universe who may not otherwise, have like a local game store they would walk into or know somebody who brings them into the hobby. So it's
Gotta
sort of
get them
cool.
while they're young,
Absolutely true.
Don't you want to know more about this? Come to the store and buy some
I will-
plastic
7
crack.
quarters, kids.
I will say that the Mechanicus kid character is named Meki, some of the laziest names ever devised by Black
Yeah,
Library.
you have always been pretty upset about that.
Like his name is Meki.
But
The-
but you remember his name.
I do remember his name.
That is
Yes.
You
true.
remember his name for the wrong reasons, but you know who Meki is, and I don't think you've read this book.
Absolutely. That's so true. That's true.
It's cool that the kids are going to be tangling with chaos. The Age of Sigmar kids have fought chaos stuff before, but I don't know if the 40K children have faced the horrors of the Neverborn. Hopefully, this goes well for them.
Well, I guess we'll find out. Looks like the fantasy kids will be going to some vampires.
Oh, they got this. They took on Skaven in like book 2. It's gonna be all right.
Oh,
yeah,
they'll be fun. Well,
Yeah,
that's
Vampire
that.
that's strong in the meta compared to Skaven, so I think they'll be okay.
And we got another one of these That's funny. We got another one of these Warhammer horror novels. I don't know if I know anyone who really loves Warhammer horror, like the brand Warhammer horror.
Yeah, I know if Travis was here. He got the first one on audio and he said it was pretty disappointing.
Mm.
So it just doesn't work well. Oh, well, I guess whatever the short stories were in that book didn't work well in the 40K setting.
I think a problem with Warhammer horror is that because especially if you play tabletop, it's like let's say there's a scene where the main character is encounter a demon, right? Like it's supposed to be scary, but in the back of your mind you're like the demon is a toughness 3 5-up invul thing, just gonna get smashed by last gunfire. Because the chaos demon horror person's gonna roll a 1 for his invulnerable save eventually.
And all humans have at least one wound.
Yeah, so
like even servitors, have one wound. Like cherubs don't. But I mean, I think actually the bigger thing with Warhammer horror that I sort of makes me wonder if it is an intelligent thing to do is typically horror is banking on fear of the unknown to some degree, right? And if you're doing horror within like a established universe like this, if you want to make use of things in the universe that already exist, which I imagine a lot of these stories would, so that they fit with canon and that they follow the guidelines of the brand, you kind of only can be so surprised and so afraid of something that you're familiar with, even just beyond the rules. Like if there's I don't know what's something's pretty spooky in Warhammer. Like Tyranids are scary, right? On a basic level of like they're gonna
Eat you.
it's a shark in space that's gonna eat you.
Right.
But we know if you know what it is, and if you're reading Warhammer horror, you probably are aware of Warhammer to some degree. Like it's not gonna really jump out at you on a conceptual level. So I don't know. Seems like a tricky one, but maybe this book does have a cool cover. So there's that.
Well, I think the problem with horror, I mean, I don't know if this tackles like Age of Sigmar or not, because I've never read any of them. But just in the 40K setting, it's already grim, dark, and everything horrible happens in that universe. So it's already a nightmare to be there. It's why there's always a poll or that one meme. It's like Star Wars fans, Star Trek fans always want to go into their universe, and Warhammer fans never want to go live in their universe because it's so bad.
Unless you want to be a demon.
It's hard to say if it's worse to be a Star Trek red shirt or a civilian in Warhammer 40,000. So at least the civilian in Warhammer 40,000, you're so ignorant and your education level is so low that like you might not know the Tyranids are coming. But
Yeah.
if you're on an episode of Star Trek and you're not a recurring cast member, there's no hope.
Yeah,
I
but at
think
least you
That's a
get a
good
decent meal.
comparison, Matt. That's true.
Unlike
Well,
the normal civilian who's just eating like rat feces or whatever.
yeah. And usually a lot of Warhammer stories involve, particularly 40k stories involve some degree of horror, even if they're not horror themed books. Like I mean, I know John, you're rereading Talon of Horus, and there's spooky stuff in that book.
There is,
But
but like it's kind of subverted by the fact that I mean it's hammering the whole like if you live in the Eye of Terror, like these spooky things just are normal. Like the example I use is like there's a scene where a demon manifests in the ship, and the narrator makes a point that like it's just oh no it's another demon, we gotta take like I'm not even being sarcastic, that's how he treats it, like oh no it's a demon, we gotta like take care of it. It's like killed like 20 crew people, like that's not good, we need to like fight it now. um Even though like it's supposed to be horror, and he makes a point that it is horrifying, but at the same time it's like it's just another problem because you live in hell, like horrifying things just become like an everyday occurrence. And like there's the one scene which it's initially kind of creepy where like that golden priest creature just appears, which is kind of creepy, but then they treat it so like oh go look, it's another demon. Let's talk to it.
it's like a deer in the road. It's like, oh, we got to deal with it. We don't want
Yeah,
to run it over because our car will fall over.
right.
But at the same time, we don't want it to eat our souls. So better
Which
get
brings a
out.
good point with Warhammer Horror, because it's so like normal, I guess. Like the horrifying, like I think what Matt said, like it's so grim dark that the grim darkness at a point is once you get over the fact that it's grim dark, it's just normal. So it's like, of course, like there's like a baby skull making machine, like duh, you know?
Yeah, I think like to go with what you said, Matt. Like the horror, I would sort of say feels like a backdrop. Like it's typically not going to be the focus after a certain point. Like once you're immersed and once you're in it, like it's not so much about. It'd be pretty hard to make it more horrifying than just the baseline of existing in that universe.
Right.
So nice try, Warhammer Horror.
Yeah, well, it's a hard universe to write for.
When they start making like Warhammer self-help books that are like written in the 40k universe, that's going to be very subversive.
I mean, Talon of Horus is in if you look at themes of like overcoming depression and all that, and meaninglessness in life, like it's pretty good.
You heard it here, folks. Read Talon of Horus if you want to feel better about.
Yes.
I second that as well.
Valuable lessons.
Yeah, you've read that, right, Matt?
I've read that, yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
No, I think we all love that book. That is a kick-ass novel.
Well, I think we've gone on enough tirade on Warhammer Horror. So how about we go to the next thing, which is the 3 new mini box games that they've are releasing. Starting with a good old Bladeborn, Age of Sigmar, which I'm looking at this when I zoom in on those cards, and this is just like Warcry Light.
I think so. I think you're right on the money with that. And the cool thing about that too is even like looking at just the components of the box itself, you could make a pretty fun Slaves to Darkness warband for regular Warcry out of the contents of this box.
Yeah, its models look nice. Always, of course, that's GW standard.
You're right.
Yeah, the models are all really nice except for Thedra Skullscryer, who has maybe the dumbest hair in Warhammer.
Which one's that?
She's the sorceress. Not the coolest like horned sorceress, but
this one in the bottom right corner with
the one
fire
that
red
has,
hair.
like, she's got like a she's got like a Kamehameha wave starting in her hand. That's cool. No problem there. Like she's got a cool, fun raven head staff, but her hair is joining the space program. And I think that may not be the best look. That is why she must die. That's why they're fighting.
It's battle of the hairstyle. Someone called her hair ridiculous, and it started a war.
Yeah, because like Kangra, like we know her from from Underworld, she's got like an awesome top knot. It's fine, but Dedra's model is quite questionable. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know anything about the game, but looking at the cards that I see and seeing how it's a hex-based game, kind of like Underworlds, I'm just like, this is just like Warcry Light, except instead of playing on a mat or open table, you're playing on a hex table.
Yeah, I think it's just these are like those Barnes and Noble exclusives where it's to show Warhammer to people who have never heard of Warhammer.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know why they're releasing these 3 games, just because now they can sell it in like Target and like you said, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart.
But with that said, I think this is the coolest one, and it goes downhill from here in terms of these 3 box games.
All right, well, yeah, let's take a look at the next one then. We got a Doomsday Countdown.
We got the easy build Space Marines versus the
some cultists.
Blackstone Fortress cultists.
Yeah, Doomsday I think is only slightly worse just because the even though it's like a good taste of like 2 very different things, the cultists are not that like exciting and cool on their own. Like they're cool if you know Warhammer and like they're like fun, space thug demon worshippers. And it's great that these cultists are available like in another place. But I think it's just 3 intercessors with bolt rifles on the Space Marine side. It's not hugely interesting.
Oh, yeah, and then you got superhumans going against regular dudes.
It would be even cooler. I mean, like if one of them had a chainsword and like maybe the other one had like a heavy weapon. I think the disappointment with this one is that it's just 3 intercessors who are fine and dandy on their own, but with the same equipment, it seems difficult to conceive how they would carry, mechanically speaking, a box game on their own.
Yeah, it's weird, and I don't know anything about this, but apparently, going by the tagline at the bottom of this box, infiltrate the base, disarm the bomb, and save the day. So I guess they're a bomb defusal squad right here.
I suppose they are, but man, it must be hard to defuse a bomb with those big fingers.
How do you grab the wires?
I don't know. Maybe they got really big wires in the Chaos Palace, or
you think they bring like tongs?
Hey, maybe we're making some assumptions here. Maybe this is a case of the Space Marines brought a really big bomb, and the cultists have to infiltrate and defuse the bomb because they got smaller hands and they can do it. And Space Marines have these big bombs that are easy to spot. You got to save the day for chaos.
Save the day for chaos.
Ages 12 and up.
It's the cultists that are the real good guys here. That's a moral they probably don't want, but we'll go with that narrative.
Suppose we will.
And then we got what the hell is this? Fire Team, which is Killzone Light. So basically like Warcry Light, but now we got Killzone Light. Or Kill Team Light.
In Killzone, the PlayStation game?
Yeah.
Also the series of I think it's the Kill Team terrain sets they sell, also called
yes, you're correct. Those are all kill zones.
Yeah, so we just got another mini Indominus. What was the small package called? For the starter set?
Oh, I remember the one for the last edition, but not for this one.
Yeah,
so maybe on high and mighty, like that's not Killzone, Matt. It's a different game. Now I have no idea what the answer to your question is.
Well, basically it's a worse version of that.
Yeah, it's a worse version of that. Again, it's a little hard to. I mean, I guess with the Necrons, you can arm them differently because they can have the Gauss flare, and then they can have the Gauss shotgun.
But this isn't going to be multi-kit, most likely. This is probably just going to be single kit.
Isn't the snap kit from Indominus the multi-kit for the Necron Warriors?
Yes, I believe so.
You could change
it might be.
You'd have to ask John. I gave him mine.
But again,
yeah, there's options for different weapons. You can get the Gauss shotgun or the Gauss rifle.
But the Space Marines don't, with the exception of the Sergeant.
Correct.
Which is a bummer.
That's okay. Starter set.
It looks like it's Necron Warriors against Assault Intercessors.
It is, but again, to broken record of like as functioning as like a Barnes and Noble sort of board game. Like I struggle to wonder how they would make those units that have the exact, particularly if one side has almost all equipped with the same weapon. Like how are they going to be distinguished from each other mechanically and as like a game? I'm sure they've thought of some way to do it, but it definitely feels like they've sort of narrowed the game. They're going to have narrowed the game around the miniatures and not maybe pick miniatures that would be more suited to such a game. So maybe I'll be wrong about that. It is nice that there's Necron Scarabs in there. Like the Necron side probably can carry their side of the game, but the Space Marines, I wonder.
It's interesting, but like I said, but just going by what I see on the cards, just the style it looks like. I mean, just looks like Kill Team Light.
Yeah.
Just on a hexagonal map instead of an open map. But
yeah, and that could be cool.
Yeah, that's all that. So clearly these aren't meant for us as veterans. But
of the Long War.
Exactly. But I mean, would you guys ever recommend this to anyone or get this for anyone?
If you want to play Warcry, the first one is amazing. That's it.
Yeah. The first one is a solid experience. Like having never played it and not knowing anything about the game itself, like it is a tidy bundle of things that you could use in Age of Sigmar. You could use more specifically in Warcry.
Comes with 18 dice with symbols on them. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it is pretty cool actually. In fact, those look like maybe I think they may be the Warcry dice, but that is really cool because it all looks like mostly like Warcry pieces. I think that first box, I have a gut feeling that has some game to it. Like that might be a kind of a fun starter set, but also just for cool miniatures. Like if you're a dungeon master and you want to paint up some fun barbarians, like this is a cool smorgasbord right here.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Just because I think Warcry is a more interesting game than Kill Team, and I mean, Chaos Space Marines versus Cultists is just kind of lame to begin with. I'm sure it'll have something fun to do with deactivating the bomb, but other than that, I don't really see how the Cultists win that game.
Yeah, that one they would have to have some fun tricks or something because they've done things previously where they've had sort of one-sided box games that were more significant than this. Like it was called, I think, maybe like Death Watch Extinction. That's not what it was. It was the release basically of Gene Stealer cults. It was Gene Stealer cults against Death Watch, and the game was 9 Death Watch Marines against like 55 Gene Stealer cultists. And it was actually super fun. It was called Death Watch Overkill, maybe. And it was actually very challenging because most of the scenarios required you as a Gene Stealer player to kill one Space Marine to win, and doing so is super hard. You would have to like lay traps or like collapse platforms. Like conventional fire did like nothing to them. So it was actually sort of a clever idea of like making Space Marines feel like Space Marines and making it feel like such a victory if you won as the Gene Stealers. And I think the Space Marines had to kill like 25 Gene Stealers or something.
That
sort of
sounds
cool
very
idea.
interesting. I kind of wish I played it.
Yeah, it was fun. Long out of print now. But thankfully, we have Gene Stealer Cults and Death Watch in part because of that box.
Yeah, that was probably the time I was taking a break from Warhammer. Because I remember when I first came back to Warhammer, I was like, what the heck is Custodians, Gene Stealer Cult, and Death Watch?
Well, one of my first questions when I came back is I walked into a Games Workshop store and I said, "What happened to Demon Hunters?" There was much laughter at my expense.
Yeah, they were unfortunately phased out long ago.
All right, well, that was a good cover to these games.
Yep, and then so we can go to Curse City, the Warhammer Quest other board game. We got some new models. from all the previews that they were leaking, we got a couple skeletons.
Is it ever wrong to have too many plastic skeletons?
No.
I mean, as long as they're not, fragile like the Tomb Kings and the old vampire counts skeletons were.
I mean, these skeletons, to be fair, in terms of fragility, they look like they're ready to explode if you breathe on them funny, just because of all their pointy bits. But I mean, these are tippy topper skeletons. Like these are so cool. I would just rant about how awesome they are. How do you guys feel about these?
This is what I want. These are skeleton warriors that I want. I mean, they're not Egyptian themed, but I'd put them in my undead army.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. I mean that Wolfenwatch commander guy, he could definitely have a place as like a White King, or like the leader of like a skeleton squad. I like the background on him, um, that he wanted to become a vampire, and then his officers bound him hand and foot, threw him into the sewer pit to be eaten by corpse rats, and then now he's not a vampire, but he's a very important skeleton.
He got infamous one way.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But yeah, that was...
this game is hype. This is probably the one thing I'm looking forward to that we know about this year so far.
Really?
It's like I think I mentioned this when it was first revealed, of like, this is like dungeon crawl gothic horror kind of thing. Like, these skeletons are pretty horrifying, and in the thematically, right? Like, talking about the other Warhammer Quest games, I think Silver Tower, that was a good one. I know Willie played it a lot, but I kind of feel like the theme I wasn't the biggest fan of like Zinchian Fortress, like, impossible geometries. I mean, that's cool. This is not for me kind of thing, but this is for me. It's like, yes, like dark, like haunted city with like witch hunters and all that. Like, this is damn cool, and these skeletons just reinforce that. I mean, the character they revealed already has a very like gothic, grim, dark vibe going on, dark fantasy thing, and these skeletons just push on that, and they are beautiful.
Totally, and it is, and I did like Silver Tower, but Silver Tower had something in an issue that was sort of endemic to early Age of Sigmar, is it just wasn't very grounded. Like, it was sort of hard to emit because it was, like you said, impossible geometries, and like you're in like a fortress out of time, and like there was a cool thing to that, but like this is very grounded. This is very like, this is a city, like we know some background on it, like there's still living people in a city ruled by the undead, which is kind of an interesting concept, and something we've seen previously in Age of Sigmar, but never so front and center around a box. So this is super cool.
Well, going to their website, the Cursed City website, I mean, you get a little map of everything, and all these points that you get to go through.
And maps were something early Age of Sigmar desperately needed more of, for sure.
Yes.
But it's a really great idea, and I'm hoping this gets a little further than the other Warhammer quests, which sometimes have not always been such a slam dunk. Like, mechanically, Shadows over Hammerhall, which was the second Age of Sigmar one, was super fun. It didn't have any new miniatures, which was a bit of a disappointment. But that was basically kind of a similar thing of like, you're set in a specific place, you have a map, like it was all set in one district of Hammerhall, which is one of the biggest cities in Age of Sigmar. So it was very like, boots on the ground. Like, you could go to a tavern, like you could go to like the alchemist shop, like there was quests you could do, like you could stay in inns and stuff, which is typically something that is easy to forget when looking at like the Age of Sigmar kind of front and center, like wacky, crazy, high fantasy giant shoulder pad models.
All right.
So this is a cool change of pace.
Well, I think I said last time we talked about this, at least. This is probably the first Age of Sigmar board game that has my attention, because I'm digging the theme. I mean, you got good old they say this is Jelson Darrock, the witch hunter.
The witch hunter, indeed.
He's you got the, what is it, not Helsing, that's different. Was
I mean,
that
he would be down with the Helsing organization. He would
right?
definitely, he
Van
would definitely
Helsing.
fight
That's
some
what I meant.
vampires. Yeah,
Yeah, you got the Van Helsing
yeah.
vibe going on with that, and just going through a City of the Dead sounds like a lot of fun. Definitely. Then the Silver Tower didn't hold my attention, probably because there wasn't any exciting looking models in there. Weren't they all like models you could already get?
They they were actually a lot of, in its defense, there was a lot of new sculpts. Those were the first plastic Zangors. Those were the first Kyric acolytes. The Ogroid Thaumaturge is from that. Um, there was a resculpt of the pink horrors. Blue horrors and brimstone horrors were also new to that, and there were also like little goblin scutterlings. But they definitely, um, even though they were united by being like Zinchian, like this is kind of drawing on a more, like, this is the general theme of the enemies are undead, and but it also seems like our hero characters are going to be people who, hunt undead and are sort of more united than the Silver Tower models were, where it was kind of more of a mishmash.
Mm.
Like Zinch was like a theme, but um amongst like the hero characters and amongst some of the monsters, it was just kind of random. And there wasn't, aside from the Ogroid, like there wasn't really like a big centerpiece model that felt very like Zinchian. Like there wasn't, I don't know, like a cool like Herald of Zinch model that was like a very clear final boss. Kind of like how Blackstone Fortress, there's a Chaos Lord is the final boss. Like you look at the box, like that's the last boss.
Mm.
And I don't think they've revealed who the main villain is going to be for this box, which is a good idea.
Nope. Looking at the character screens here, we got like 7 more heroes, agents of defiance as they're calling them, and then we got
Yeah,
3 more overlords. They haven't
yeah.
revealed.
And I like that the two overlords we have are very different from each other
Yeah.
too. Because like Gorslav, who's the zombie guy, is also like, he's big. I think he's on a 40 mil base, maybe a 50. But it's like a giant zombie. Just kind of like got that like Bloodborne Dark Souls angle going on of
Mm.
like this, the unnaturally large proportions on like an otherwise humanoid creature. It's super super cool. I'm glad to hear you guys are excited by it too. And Matt, I'm very surprised that it has your interest. Though I guess you've explained well as to why it does.
Well, have you ever played or heard of a game called Shadows of Brimstone?
Indeed.
So I got really big into that kind of game, and the dungeon crawls do excite me. And being able to just do a like campaign through it is always fun.
There's some fun models in that too.
Even doing a D&D kind of style campaign, which I've done with Shadows of Brimstone, is fun. I could see myself doing something with this just to make it more interesting.
Yeah. No, it's totally a great idea, and I feel like they're kind of hitting a similar audience too. Then it sounds like, then so far at least, the idea is marketing in the right place.
Right.
Excited to see more from this stuff.
Well,
I don't mind the slow burn with this set. There's so much to reveal. I would be maybe overwhelming to have it all at once just because it's so hype.
Mm-hmm.
we gotta get prepped for the Soulblight faction that's coming out.
Yeah, so awesome.
You gotta get that slow burn in so they can get more interest in it. But I have a quick question since I've never played any of these kind of games. How can you give like a brief summary of it, like how it plays?
Well, I mean, John, you've played Blackstone Fortress, right?
Yeah. So long story short, it's the dungeon crawl against the AI. It's been so long since I played that game, but I remember that game has a mechanic where at the start of the turn, so certain actions require certain dice rolls. So like you could do a basic move, which is gonna be like a 1-up, or you can do like an attack, which is like, I'm just making this up, like a 3-up, and then you can make like a super attack, which is a 5-up. Now you how these dice rolls work is at the start of the turn. I think you roll dice, and then you place the dice on your character sheet, and then you could just use those dice. So if let's say you roll a 1, a 2, and a 4. So based on what I just made up earlier, you could do the 1-up move action, you could do the 3-up attack action, but you don't have a 5-up, so you can't do the super attack. So it's a lot of like, it's random, but it's like planned randomness, if that makes sense. I remember that was a mechanic for all the Warhammer Quest games.
The one thing that and I do think that will probably be like that sort of roll dice, and that's like your ability pool thing will probably stay. The thing that's hard to guess is how the dungeon itself will actually be run, because I think all three of them have been quite different. Silver Tower was designed in a way where you could play by yourself to a degree. Like it had a lot of like enemy AI and like you sort of enemy programming, for lack of a better term. And Shadows over Hammerhall needed a DM. Somebody had to run it. I don't think Blackstone Fortress needs a DM. I think
No, it does not.
You play against the AI.
So it's kind of. I played Blackstone Fortress once. I broke the game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know if we played it right.
Physically broke the game?
No. Well, figuratively broke the game.
It.
You know, broke the rules. Because apparently the flamethrower was really broken. Unless we played the game wrong.
No, I've heard such claims.
But yeah, I played a little bit of that, and then we kind of lost interest because, because of the flamethrower kind of ruining everything.
Yeah, that's I would sort of I would be hesitant to say that Games Workshop may have learned their lesson from that. Sometimes their playtesting, one must wonder how it happens, and if it does on certain things. Obviously, they release so many things, so there's a little bit of chaos is unleashed once things get into the hands of the players, anyway. But hopefully there'll be a way. We'll find a way. Hopefully there'll be a way to sort of, if such a thing occurs, like to work around it for Ulfenkarn.
We can only hope.
We only hope, but otherwise, it's going to be cool models no matter what.
Oh yeah, these models look great. So let's take a look at the next thing, shall we? Which should be going really fast here. I only care about the model, which is the new Savage Orc for Underworlds.
Yeah.
I'd go over the rules, but I don't know any of the rules, so I'm just looking at the model.
To be fair, it's hard to kind of go over the rules without knowing kind of what the warband is like anyway. Like Underworlds seems to always do a good job of innovating with their rules, but Underworld's models are usually great. Like
always top
John,
notch.
I know you have a lot of Underworlds. Can you think of any Underworlds warbands that you thought just had like terrible models?
No, they're all great. They're all excellent. Like they're all great for just like role RPGs. Warcry is a good use for them. Or if you're playing like some things like these are just great orc models. Like
Yeah, I'm looking at the Savage Orc and I'm like, that looks pretty good. Got the little Wolverine claws going on too.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. This was a bit of a surprise because a lot of people thought this was going to be Spider-Fang when they released the symbol for it. But it's cool that it's Savage Orcs, because this Savage Orc just puts most of their Savage Orc models to shame.
Yeah.
Now, question for you specifically, John, because I know on this the viewers, the listeners know how John feels about orcs in space. How do you feel about greenskins in Age of Sigmar / fantasy?
I mean, they belong there, so they're great.
Diplomatic answer.
Generic orc theme of just like normal orcs, because right now there's no normal quote unquote orcs. There's the Space Marine orcs and the Savage orcs. So, but I mean, orcs are great in AOS. I wish they got more models, but I mean,
maybe this will be the year. After all this Slaanesh stuff,
what we do get is generally always awesome. Like this is yet another great looking Age of Sigmar orc model. But there haven't been too many, despite their seeming popularity. So, yeah, this is super cool.
Yes, always nice to see the Underworld models. moving on. Talk about that after. The Dark Eldar. We got a Kabalite preview. Something I'm excited about. Because finally.
How do you feel about this, Matt?
I'm
We
sorry?
don't play Dark Eldars. How do you feel about this? Because we don't play Dark Eldar, so I'm curious what you have to
Yeah,
say.
you are the expert.
Well, the changes that I see, just going from this Kabalite Warrior, we get +1 attack and +1 to our save, which is +1 to the save is fine because finally not wearing toilet paper armor, so we can finally live through normal bolt fire. But on a whole, that's kind of whatever. Majority of the time, Kabalite Warriors are just shooting out of a venom anyways, and as soon as that venom dies, they're pretty much screwed anyways.
Yeah.
So the +1 save is a nice bonus. The +1 attack is whatever. You're not, majority of the time, you're never putting these guys in combat because they just instantly die. But the other change that we got was our splinter cannon to shoot more big dirty needles. It became a heavy weapon instead of a rapid fire weapon, which is you decide the pros and cons. Got 12 inches to its range and became a -1 AP and 2 damage. Now this could be pretty big, going by some if depending if some of the cabals got changed, or coven, which is the dark technomancers, which gives your weapons, if you basically overcharge it, +1 AP +1 damage. Oh no, sorry, +1 to wound +1 damage. And putting these on Talos, you get about 6 shots, wounding on 4s, 3 damage. That's ridiculous.
To me, I think the 12-inch range, I think, is pretty significant. I don't know if you feel as strongly about that, but that's like a that seems like it sounds like a big deal to me. In a game where, like, with like lots of terrain and like the change of the battlefield size, like that extra 12 inches, I think means a lot.
Oh yeah, I'm not. I don't mean to downplay it. I think it'll be taken a lot, especially on Venoms, because we just ignore the heavy special rule, right? So getting, but you probably get 2 of these on Venoms, and again, if they're part of the Dark Technomancer Cabal or Coven, I mean, at 6 shots, overcharge that bad boy. Wounding on 3s because poison weapon. Wounds on 4s, you get +1 to wound. Wounding on 3s at 3 damage. Goodbye, aggressors. Goodbye, heavy intercessors. Goodbye, and anything with 3 wounds, unless they got that -1 to wound. Disgusting resilience save, but this is still pretty nasty.
Have you, like, historically? Because I know you have a bunch of Kabalites because they're like one of the 3 troop choices in the whole army.
Mhm.
But like, have you historically liked your Kabalite warriors? Like, have you like felt they were useful, like they were fun?
Uh, yeah, I like my Cavalry Warriors. They're definitely my more aesthetically. I like the way that they look. I mean, you gotta put a helmet on them because I don't want to see that disgusting face. But
I can't argue there. It's a great helmet, also.
yeah, like the armor, I love. They'd even if they were trash, I'd probably still run them. Just because
I've
point wise, they're still the cheapest unit that we got, as well.
Kabalite warriors are interesting to me, not only just because they're one of the coolest basic troops in the game in terms of aesthetics, and I like that they have all these weird different weapons, and they're so like distinctly their faction,
Mhm.
in a way that like one should hope all troops in 40k would feel like. I think the thing about Kabalites that's also interesting is I read it was a long time ago, but I saw a very compelling argument for why there's so few Dark Eldar players, and it kind of boiled down to Kabalite warriors are hard to paint well, and because they're beautiful models that are difficult to to like put together and like not break, and like make look nice. Like a lot of people would be scared off from the faction because of them, because of how awesome they are, and because of like how like synonymous they are with like if you are a Dark Eldar, like you probably own these guys. I'm
Mhm.
sure there's Dark Eldar players out there who don't, who just do like witches or racks, but I can't imagine there's many of them. It's cool to see like the core troop choice get a close look like this because it's so important. Um, that like your troops are fun and your troops are good and have like different things they can do.
Well, the thing about Dark Eldar is all their troops have a good use to them, right? I mean, the racks. I think more people would run racks if they weren't Finecast. So here's to hoping that we
No,
get
they're
a.
plastic. Racks are plastic.
Are they
But
plastic
they are
now?
$36 for 5 of
Yeah.
them.
When did they come plastic? I haven't
A
bought
while
racks in
ago.
a long time.
There's not like none of this. Well, actually, there are in stores. Yeah.
I think they've always
They are plastic.
grotesques are definitely
Or just for resin.
resin, but I think racks may have always been plastic. I don't know though.
Well, then I guess I must have bought my racks very early on because mine are resin.
Yeah, that's probably
fact
why.
checking that. That's interesting.
But I mean, racks have their use because they're +1 toughness, and given if you put them part of Prophets of Flesh, they got a 4-up invul save, so you got a tough group sitting there just taking shots on objectives, and you can buff them up and bring them back to life with a stratagem. Racks are good. Witches, uh, before the point increase they got with the index, a lot of witches were just good combat troops to just run in, tangle up vehicles with the net, throw a net on a vehicle apparently, and then they can't move. I don't know how it works, but I mean they had that disruption. They were also very murderous in combat. The only problem with the witches is you had that randomized combat drug, which was very clunky, and you had to bring like six unit of witch or 6 units that could use combat drugs to get any like efficiency out of that for the right unit. So hopefully they change that a little bit, but we'll see.
For the record, Matt is totally right. There were resin racks.
That's probably the ones you have.
I had no idea.
So wait, so are they still resin or are they plastic?
No, they're
plastic now. I have some for Kill Team.
Plastic now, but yeah, they were resin for 1 edition.
Oh, well then that was the edition I got them. Sucks to be me.
No, it's just more proof that you are a dedicated Drukhari player. You're not a fair weather friend of the Drukhari.
But
and I also know like you've read like their novels and stuff too. I mean, there are few who enjoy the Path of Dark Eldar as much as you do. So it's awesome that you're being rewarded with this new book.
Well, I can only hope that we get the Space Marine and Death Guard treatment, where it's a good, solid book and a lot of units are viable, and it doesn't stay in its current state where it's just like, yeah, these aren't good.
Is there anything like what's your like top list of like things you were hoping are going to get buffed in this new book? I apologize if you've already gone on record on the cast talking about this.
What I hope would be good.
Like what units do you think? What units? Not even maybe that you think necessarily are the worst that you wish were better, but like what units do you want to run that currently for whatever reason like you just don't?
Incubi.
And Incubi.
That's your answer, John.
Incubi are okay. They're in an okay spot. They were.
I want them to be fucking overpowered and just murder Space Marines.
Their models are so sick.
Yeah, I mean, I know like 2 or 3 months ago. I don't even remember. They dropped the leaks for Incubi.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But that was a long time ago. That's so long. I don't even remember when they dropped it. God damn, I don't know. There's a lot. I know the beast needs some help. Any of the beasts, the Court of the Archon would be fun to run, but very ineffective. I don't know why anyone would ever really run it, other than thematically.
Was there a time where the Court of the Archon was good?
Nope.
Yeah, I was just sort of I was aware of them, but I just more used to them of just people buying the models because they were cool and they looked totally weird and different from everything else in the game.
Yeah, I know the bikes I wish were better. I don't like them, but I wish they were better. I know before the 4th, they were running terror across the battlefield because of the latest FAQ that they did, where they made them 10 points a model. And everyone went to the store and bought all the jet bike reavers and started running terror around because who wouldn't want a 10-point jet bike unit running around the board capturing objectives and just disrupting everything. Luckily that got fixed. They went up to like 20 points now. 20 points a model.
Probably better suited too. I mean, those are the there's a what are those models called again? The Dark Eldar bikes. I can't recall.
Yeah, the jet reavers or whatever.
Yeah, because the Reaver is one of the ships. Yeah, and they're such a distinctive and awesome thing that like if they feel very Dark Eldar, not just in terms of aesthetically, but like it's a fast thing that has spikes on it that presumably does damage.
Yes, something you just
I,
want to run people over with.
yeah,
Yeah, I hope those get better. If anything, those and the Beast. I know the Beast were raining hell in 8th edition. No, it was like either late 7th, early 8th edition. Beast armies were really good, and then they kind of fell out of popularity. But yeah, that's I'd like to run a court, but it's so pointless. An Archon's so worthless. So I guess if a unit could improve, it would be the Archon, but there's not really much you can do with him. It's the strength 3 that brings him down. Not being able to wound anyone with any effective weaponry. But he's the cheapest HQ, so
hopefully they'll give some new options there.
well, we'll have to wait and see.
Isn't that guy coming to start collecting as well? It seems like it would behoove them to make him more interesting.
I think he was in the 8th edition one, and then I think the 9th edition one they traded him out for. Or no, he was in the 7th edition one, and then 8th edition they traded him out for the witches. I think you got witches and a succubus. Because I remember buying the last one from you, because they weren't making those boxes anymore.
Yeah, I don't even know if they have a start collecting. Oh, they have start. Yeah, you're right. It's one of the witch HQ's succubus.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not the Archon anymore.
Yep. They were really pushing that. It's a good box set. I'm not gonna lie, but not something I was looking forward to, as I was on that Kabalite hype train. But if GW ever listens to this podcast, if they want to send me that book, I'll go give them an honest review of it. Basically just give me the book so I can look at it already.
Give me the damn book.
Give me the damn book.
Tired of being in pain and waiting.
My book got delayed. Just give me this moment. All right then.
It's awesome. It's awesome. It sounds like there's hopefully going to be a lot to look forward to. And presumably after like seeing what the last few codexes were like, this one will be exciting too.
We can only hope. Can only hope. So, moving on to other hopeful things, we got the 40K app going down for half price. I still don't think it's worth it.
So I am subscribed to the 40K app.
You are. Interesting.
More so because I keep forgetting to unsubscribe. The 40K app was it was useful to some degree, particularly when the new edition just came out. And it was a resource just for knowing what the units were doing. and like what was in the game, because I was sort of starting a Space Marine army kind of from scratch, and like there were a lot of things that there were supplements and stuff that like I didn't, I had them, but like it was nice to have everything there and you could search them. Like having an app database for the game is absolutely something that should exist. It still boggles the mind though how Games Workshop already delivered on a excellent app database for Age of Sigmar, and that the 40k one just is not that.
Nowhere near that standard.
It's one of the great mysteries of Warhammer 40,000.
Well, here's what I think, right? When the app first came out, I thought it was pretty good. No, okay, well, let me rephrase that. A good deal in the fact that you had access to all the books. So as Ninth Edition comes along, you're not gonna have access to all the books anymore because you got to go out, buy the book, then you got to go and scan the book, and then you'll have access to it. But that's it. So you're gonna be paying. Let's just use Will as an example since he only has Space Marines. You were gonna be paying what, $60 a year for only one book.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that you had to go out and buy this $60 book to put in there, plus all the supplements.
It's true. The deal gets like Darth Vader says, pray I do not alter the deal further.
Yeah.
It did not look like it was gonna get any better.
Yeah, and that was what? That was when it was $5. Now it's going to what, $2.50 or $2?
Yeah.
The website doesn't give me anything; it gives me in pounds for some reason. But even then, I still don't think it's worth it.
It's competing, so of course it has always been competing with the thing that is free.
Right, Battlescribe.
It is, yeah, it's competing with Battlescribe. And though personally for me, like I do actually put tangible value in presentation of the app. Like I like that it looks the same. I like you can see the picture of the unit and stuff. Like I like that it looks nice. It just helps me to enjoy using the app and using it as like a resource of the game more. But it has to work. It has to be stable. Like it has to have the correct rules, and it has to not like crash and not be a zillion dollars, because otherwise I'll resort to the codex. Like that's kind of what I would be willing to do. Now, John, for you, I mean, I don't imagine you've ever considered getting this app.
I don't, because for the price you pay, the thing about the 40k app for me is that I will always compare to Azir, which is the Age of Sigmar app, which is $12 a year and works amazing for what it does. Now you don't get the relics and all that, but I mean, I would happily pay $1 a month for the army building feature. If you have your army set up, one click gives you the war scroll, right? I've used that ever since it launched playing AOS games. It's very easy to use, and Battlescribe kind of sucks for presentation. It's very clunky if you've never used it before. I mean, now we're all I'm sure me and Matt are veterans of using Battlescribe. We know the kinks and all that, but it looks very ugly. The AOS app looks really nice, and again, is $1 a month. For the 40k app, even now, is more than that, and is incredibly buggy. So has a lot of issues, keywords missing, points wrong,
Slow to update,
all that. So not the biggest fan of it, and because the Age of Sigmar app is so much better. Now, if the Age of Sigmar app didn't exist, maybe it'll be more forgiving. But again, also Battlescribe exists, so it's just bizarre that this is their biggest game and they're botching this part really bad in 2021, where technology is at the forefront of society, kind of thing. So it's just like, oh, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, you make a good point. Like if the Age of Sigmar app didn't exist, like if there wasn't Azir, I would be a little more lenient on like, oh, this is their first time doing this. But it's also not even the first time a board game company has done this sort of thing in house. I mean, for War Machine and Hordes, like War Room existed, and despite sometimes having stability issues because In that game, it was necessary to track in-game like health values on an app. So that was something that Warhammer 40,000 doesn't need to have happen.
Right.
So even by that, actually, just walked into it like has even fewer requirements than something like that.
Yeah.
Like it would be in theory harder to make a stable app for Adeptus Titanicus than for Warhammer 40,000.
Yeah.
This is a database. This is what it's got to do. It doesn't have to have anything special beyond that. I mean, I guess the point builder, you got to program some clicks in there, and it's not like it's nothing. It's not like a 0 degree of difficulty undertaking, but it is disappointing that it's not better, particularly after 6-7 months.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it should have just been for free. In my opinion, I don't know why we have to pay for this. Just
I'm sure
to
there's
get
some
the
like
function.
some like economic server issues aside. I mean, but I the AOS app again is $1, and like that's
Yeah.
it is not free, but it's also $1, and that, like, yeah, what the hell, 40K? You know, like especially at launch, like I don't know how you paid way more than what it is now. You know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, even what Azir is what you call it.
Yeah.
That's free. I get all the war scrolls, and
Right, the war scrolls are free. Yeah,
That's true. You
you
get a lot for
yeah,
$0 for that.
you pay $1 to make army lists. You know.
so I mean that's all you pay for, right? Just the
Yeah.
ability to make army lists. I
Yeah.
thought it doesn't come with the book or anything.
No, the book you have to buy.
Well, I mean, obviously you would have to buy, but I mean, it just
Yeah, I don't know. Well, actually, I mean, I think you get. I think yeah, it's the army builder is the thing that costs the extra money, and that is the convenience. I mean, it's actually not incredibly difficult to make an army list for Age of Sigmar compared to like Warhammer 40,000, but I don't know, it's just nice, and it's again, it's the dollar. Like
right.
it almost it's like
Yeah.
a donation to a hobby that I like. Like at that point, it's potatoes, and obviously, should say $20 means something different to everybody. Is a phrase one of my former Games Workshop colleagues like to say, and I think it's a good one. Like, it, $12 isn't free, and it's not going to be a suitable option for everybody to have to pay for something. But particularly if you're going to be paying for this much, and it is this, if there's so many hangups about it with the 40K app, like they're gonna have to spend some more time in the manufactorum with this one. They got a long way to go.
Yeah, and it's just disappointing of what it could have been. But I'm on the side that this should have been free. It should be just like the Azir app. You know, have the rules for the army. I mean, the unit. Don't include the army special rules or anything. You know, just the stats of the unit.
I think the reason that comes for it, because I do agree with you, that would be way better. I think this is still part of the hang up that Warhammer 40,000 has that Age of Sigmar shrugged off was you can try the game for free. Like the War Scrolls are available for free, and you can't get the unit data sheets for free with Warhammer 40,000. I mean, you do get the data sheets to some degree in your in your box when you buy them, but like you can't try it for nothing.
Right.
Unless you go to a third party source. Like they're still putting a cynically you could call it a paywall, diplomatically call it they're putting value on the rules of the actual individual unit profiles, and maybe those times should have changed.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to again see what happens with this. I just find it a little funny that it's getting a price drop. It's still not worth it, but getting a price drop.
That there's the cover that they have for for just the price change is a bunch of orcs jumping out of a phone. It's like the orcs made the app. That's why it doesn't work.
It works on it works on believing.
The orcs like stapled it together. It's like this basically functions. I have a squig doing my directories.
Oh, well, here's a question to you, Will. Since you did buy the app, are you getting refunded or what's going on with that?
Hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet. Do you have any idea?
Looking through it now, I would say no indication that anything has changed. It's still largely, you know, not working. I mean, now there's at least the Battle Forge function to make the army list is finally here. That I think said coming soon for 3-4 months. I'm not exactly sure, but I just remember, particularly over the summer, like, man, where is this thing? Like, how do I make army list? And it never arrived.
Yeah. Well, let's jump from this debacle, as it's always fun to talk about the Warhammer app, into some video game news. So we got a Total Warhammer 3 trailer. I know you guys play a lot of this, right? Or played a lot of it.
I'm not so proficient as John is.
Oh, John.
But
yeah, I played a lot of Total War Warhammer was a so Total War Warhammer was one of two games where, like, before they came out, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if Total War had they made a Warhammer Total War? That'd be awesome. And the other game was, wouldn't it be cool if they made a Star Wars Battlefield game? And they did both. Battlefront came out and Total War Warhammer came out. And Total War Warhammer is friggin' amazing. That is probably the best Warhammer game like ever. Like, it just captures the setting incredibly well. I mean, Dawn of War is great, but ultimately, like, there's no Necrons in Dawn of War 2 besides the Necron lore, or like there's no Tyranids in Dawn of War 1, or like it's very old. They have a lot of the old units kind of thing.
Well, that's what the modding community comes in.
Right.
indeed.
Whereas Total War Warhammer, like, it's literally like, I think I can never go back to Warhammer Fantasy because Total War Warhammer is just a better fantasy. Like, the only thing it's missing is like Ushabti with melee weapons. With great weapons. Excuse me, because those look sick. But again, modding community, right? But this is hype. Like Total War Warhammer 3. Even just like the chaos stuff, having the new, especially now that we could see we have all the new greater demons, like the freaking night-sized bloodthirster and keeper of secrets in full 3D animation. Super hype.
And
Kislev is cool. I'm gonna keep ranting now.
to jump, no, because it's a good rant, and I'm gonna let you finish, as the Kanye once said. But I think I totally agree with what you're saying about, like, there's few insane men who would say that Total War Warhammer sucks. Like, those people exist, but I can't. I don't know where they're coming from. Like, there's a lot to like about this trilogy, even though we don't have the third one yet. But like, it is, as far as we know, a trilogy. It's a great love letter to fantasy. It's a great time capsule for what fantasy could be. Like, Manfred's mighty army of Sylvania. Like, that, you should bring up that anecdote, John. It's always a great one.
Oh yeah, like the Manfred's, like in the back of the old army books, it would say like Manfred's mighty army of Sylvania. It's like the Manfred mod, which is cool. Like 20 skeletons, 10 graveguard, and 5 blood knights is this mighty army. But that's what you had, right? Because it's a miniatures game.
Yeah, the practicality, like, you only can make so many things.
But then you load up Total War Warhammer and you like play the Battle of Hellfen scenario, and there's like, and obviously you max unit size to full, otherwise what are you doing? If you have the computer that can run it, of course. And then you have like your 200 skeletons, like 50 graveguard versus like the 300 Empire State Troops. Like, that's in a great map, right? Terrain's fully built and painted with like special effects. You don't need like you don't need like a special effects like practical artist for your table. Like, it's a video game and it looks cool, it looks thematic, it's just awesome. But the big news too is that they're releasing Cathay, which has never had an army in Warhammer history.
They're creating Cathay.
They're creating it,
yeah. And I think Andy Hoare, which is one of the Games Workshop designers, is working with them to create this army that will fit in line like I think what he said on a Facebook comment, like, if they came out in fantasy, this is what they would look like.
And riding giant polar bears.
You think of Kislev, think of Cathay, like China, like the Warhammer China, which has never been featured ever. We know it exists. There's like maybe 2 paragraphs total of lore and like
there's no miniatures that weren't like conversions. There were conversions in White Dwarf articles, and maybe they're older graybeards than us who would know this, but I'm pretty sure this is all a new thing. It's pretty cool. It's also it's a big risk, and CA and GW by extension have taken risks in Total War Warhammer before. But this one, I mean, I'm super hyped for it. I have every confidence like that they're going to do a great job and they're going to create something awesome. But it is a big gamble. They're making basically a new faction.
Well, it'll be interesting to see.
I think it's going to be worth the fact that the first 2 were massive successes. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be super, super cool. And also interesting about this trailer, aside from the fact they're adding demons into the game, which some people thought would not happen. Of some controversy is the designs for the greater demons appear to be the end time / Age of Sigmar designs.
Yeah, I was looking at this.
How do you feel about that?
If you think that's lame, you suck, and you need to let the past go, as a great man once said.
Whoa.
Like it's kind of funny actually, because I'm a member of the Old World Facebook group and the Total War Warhammer Facebook group, and I made a post about like, hey, check it out, and I posted all the Age of Sigmar Greater Demons. I'm like, hey guys, wouldn't it be great to see these animated? And it has like 600 likes. Everyone's like, yes, finally. So I think the community is hyped, because let's face it, the old models are just trash. Even like the Dawn of War Bloodthirster, which is the old model, has nothing to the new Age of Sigmar Bloodthirster. And even in to draw back on the Slanesh stuff we talked about earlier, like the Old World group loves those models. They're always thinking of ways of how do we put these on square bases and like how do we rank them up.
Right.
Joking about that aside, it's like people are hyped for it because it's Warhammer Fantasy. It's just HD Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah. Well,
how do you feel about it, Matt?
What, it being Age of Sigmar? I don't care.
Oh, just the demons?
Yeah, I don't care. If they're Age of Sigmar demons, I don't really. I might not have been a fan of Age of Sigmar, but I've never hated on the models other than the High Elves. But I know I always thought Age of Sigmar had great models, and if they're implementing into this game, that's fine. I'd rather have something nice to look at than something ugly and outdated.
Yeah, I mean, I would of course be one to agree with all of that. I mean, I think it makes sense to me, and it also makes sense from a business perspective. If people play Total War Warhammer 3 and then they decide to start the hobby, they can get the great and clean one that they see in the game, right? That just makes sense for everybody involved. That's just a good that's business synergy, if you will, between Creative Assembly and Games Workshop. I think the thing that because the counter argument I've seen for why it would be bad that the new Age of Sigmar designs are being used for the Greater Demons in this game is that it's not staying true to like the art that was around when Fantasy ended in 2015. I guess
you go after yourself.
I mean, that's in my heart. That's what I want to say, but like I mean, what's the devil's advocate to this though? Like, I mean, yes, I guess that's kind of true, but at the same time, like someone who says that, like you got to acknowledge that like the Cathay thing is the biggest bombshell. Like this is a huge deal.
I mean, Kislev already is more Age of Sigmar than, in my opinion, more Age of Sigmar than Warhammer Fantasy.
What makes you say that?
Because typically, if you look at like Empire or Bretonia, right, the human factions, they're even Warriors of Chaos. Let's bring those in, like the less corrupted stuff. They're very much based on real world historical stuff. Like Empire is like 1600s Germany, with the state troops and all that, and all the Reichsmarschals, all that thing. Obviously, Bretonia is medieval France. You have your knights, your Pegasus, your Lady of the Lakes, and all that. And Norska is obviously, your Viking archetypes. the barbarians raiding and pillaging and all that. While, like, what the hell is Kislev? I mean, obviously there's some Eastern European influences there, but like I don't recall like Eskimo armored dudes with like ice spears in history.
Riding polar bears. I mean,
Riding
like
polar-
or
yeah.
even if you from the Poland angle, like the winged hussars definitely did not have those bear pelts and stuff. Like
Right,
the thing with Kislev and with like Norska is something I've always felt about like Warhammer Fantasy is that it's kind of like history plus. It's like it's historical, medieval sweaty peasant people, but in a world where it has like a heightened reality of fantasy to it. Which I mean, looking at these designs for Kislev, if this totally could be a trailer for Age of Sigmar,
Yes.
it's not. It's Warhammer Fantasy. But like, there's nothing in that trailer that's like that couldn't be at home with the more kind of out there designs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's super cool. There's again, like I don't know many people who hate Total War Warhammer. There are some, and there's some who are fans of it who are still determined to hate things about it anyway. Mostly just for not including everything that has ever been in every White Dwarf about Warhammer Fantasy since like 1982. But yeah, it's super awesome. Can't wait.
It got Tomb Kings in there, and then I immediately bought the game. That's when I got jumped in.
Yeah, even Tomb Kings, right? Tomb Kings has the Arkan design now.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, now the big question is it going to include end time stuff? Like,
Nagash.
is it going to include Nagash? Is it going to include? I'm sure it's going to include the Bloodbound because that just fleshes out the Khorne faction. Hey, man, like, it could have Heathen Knights that we just saw. Why not? They could fit.
Oh my god!
Sorry,
that would be so.
Why not? Right? Like, it could have disciple like Zangors could be in fantasy. And I'm raising my voice because the excitement of this is hyping me. Like, not Gutrots. The Glockin could be. Why not? Right?
Blow Brotspawn and all those.
Yeah, all those Blight Lord, not Terminators, the Blight Kings. There we go.
They
Why
can
not
certainly put them in without doing the end time storyline. Because I mean, Total War Warhammer is not really about that. Like, it's not. They're not pushing like a storyline so much as like this is kind of a fun sandbox of like, come and meet all your friends from Warhammer Fantasy, and we'll kill each other with 10,000 squigs against 10,000 dryads.
Right.
Well, I figured they were already adding in Age of Sigmar stuff because, I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the Khorne Berserkers riding Juggernauts, they weren't in original fantasy, right?
They were in fantasy. They were in the tail end of 8th.
Towards the tail end, yeah.
Were they?
And they were pretty OP.
The Mighty Skull Crushers.
Oh, okay. I guess I was wrong. I thought,
but I mean, I think to be fair, like it's so Age of Sigmar-ish in its ways anyway. Like a lot of the stuff from the last few years of Warhammer Fantasy, kind of, like even before End Times. I mean, we got all those crazy things like the Mortis engine for Legions of Nagash. Like we got stuff that was going more into the out there territory that was very much going beyond the history plus kind of angle.
mm-hmm.
I mean, Empire got Demigryph Knights, right?
Yeah, Demigryphs are very not German.
Demigryph Knights are totally like an Age of Sigmar kind of thing. I mean, even honestly, maybe not like the winged Prosecutor Stormcast, but the first wave of Stormcast Eternals would not have looked totally like unreasonable, like as like heavy infantry, like alongside the Empire. Like those guys could totally have ranked up and been just like elite gigantic knights.
Yeah.
It's a little weird. It's a bit of a stretch, but like the design aesthetic of pre-End Times wasn't that far removed.
Honestly, stuff that isn't like Caradrons or Deepkin could fit in, like, or Lumineth now, but like I could totally see like Kurnoth Hunters being there because why not? I could totally see like a Maw Crusher be there because why not?
Absolutely.
That could fit. Like, I mean, you already have Wyverns and like Bone Giants. Why not have stuff like that?
Bigger, fatter, dumber Wyvern.
Well then, many exciting opportunities. Well, I figure the ogres are going to be DLC for this expansion, though.
Yeah.
I think they will.
And Chaos Dwarfs.
And
Chaos
Chaos Dwarf.
Dwarves, and one more faction, right?
I think the only one with a book that's beyond Demons of Chaos is the Ogre Kingdoms. I think
Yeah.
that's gonna be everybody,
Okay,
and they can make stuff up.
that'll.
Yeah.
I'm
got
excited
India.
for it.
Warhammer India, Warhammer Japan.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, they're in the maps, like India and Nippon.
If Cathay goes well, they can just do whatever they like, and then when they really run out of ideas, they can do Total Warhammer 4.
Well, this is the last one,
Say more.
apparently. This is the last of the series.
Well, this is the last that they've announced. There's no reason for them to not just make more games. But yeah, this is the last promised game that we know for sure is going to happen before it
Yeah.
was announced. Yeah. Now it doesn't mean that they're done. Like, but this is the only ones they promised the consumers is going to happen.
They've had such a good working relationship with Games Workshop so far, kind of at like an unprecedented level compared to other like tie-in video games. Like, I would not be surprised if they choose to work together in the future on something else. It may not necessarily be Warhammer Fantasy or like Age of Sigmar, but I would be interested to see where this partnership goes. There's nothing but good things to say about it. But we've ranted about how awesome this is for too long.
Yes. Well, I think we can just go into the hobby and rant section. If you guys want.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, do you guys? Let's start with Will, the guest. You do anything hobby fun, or anything exciting?
Yeah, I mean, I recently purchased for myself this is so nerdy. I got a painting light. So I got one of those, like, it clips onto the side of your desk, and it's like a high-reaching, like sort of floodlight thing for my hobby table, and it has been such a game changer. It's the one that uh, Darren Latham uses. It's not very expensive. It's like $50 or something, but the ability to be on my desk and have like my elbows pressed against the table and holding my miniature and having a light that's direct, like it's like high enough above my head that I can actually see edge highlighting and stuff like that. It's a game changer. I've been painting this. I've been painting a Warrior of Chaos that actually John got me for Christmas a million years ago, and like that model has so many amazing details. It's nice just to have like a proper light, so I don't have to, strain my limited vision.
What, you don't like using the single tungsten light, giving you no vision while painting?
That was definitely what I was used to. I would like try to like combine lights, but then I would have like a yellow light and a white light, and it would make the model just look very strange. So yeah, I've been on a hobby kick lately with my new light. How about you, Matt? What you been doing?
Uh, I didn't game this week. I instead just watched my two friends play a game. It was a Death Guard versus Blood Angels. It was a close game. Could have gone either way. Mainly I've been working on. I did my first battle report, so I got that up.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome. Where can we find it?
Well, you can find it on this channel
Oh,
here. But that was interesting to do. It's more of a not the traditional battle report. It's more just pictures and then me just talking over it, kind of thing. Because I don't know how to. I don't know how I would do a live streaming kind of thing of playing Warhammer without it being like incredibly boring.
setting up a bunch of cameras and stuff as well. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but it would be quite a bit of work. But it sounds like what you did. I mean, gets the job done and probably is fun to listen to.
It's just me getting thoughts on play-by-play of it around, and then just some strategy, and that's pretty much it. Hopefully, I get some comments of people telling me how bad it is and what I can do to improve it. That's what I'm really hoping for. But yeah, I got that out finally. Hopefully, more to come, but we'll see what happens. But that's that. I'm hopefully trying to get those out once every other week. It's still a work in progress. But what about you, John?
The Star Wars train continues unabated. I've been playing a lot of Star Wars Legion with Will and our gaming group. I have finished painting a ton of models because once again, Star Wars designs are incredibly simple. Like I got a squad of Imperial Special Forces, and they're just black armor and red eyes, and like lead belcher gun washed with black Templar to make it more black. Like, and they're done. Got some clone troopers, paint them white, paint the inlets, and they're kind of done. So yeah, been super hyped for those. Getting our gaming group really into that. The Warhammer hype has slowed down because of the glacial release of codexes, even though it's still like once a month, which is bananas compared to most other miniature game companies. So,
but the model hype is not slowed.
Model hype is not slowed. I purchased ordered some Blade Guard. I think I'm gonna get some Slanesh models this weekend. And yeah, just work. I have some clones on my desk. I just finished some droid STAPs and the aforementioned Imperial dudes. So yeah, hobby train is kicking for Star Wars Legion.
And there you go. Hopefully, we can get a Warhammer game in. It's been a long time since we played. What was it? Start of 9th?
Oh yeah, it's been a while, but I don't know. Should be down.
Models don't go bad. They're still painted.
That's true. Look at that instinct. Well, I think we're gonna call it there. We went a little bit longer than expected.
It was fun though.
Whoops.
Yeah, but it's not a bad thing, It's good to get a bunch of opinions and thoughts out there of how much we love / hate the hobby.
Like you do. Well, thank you so much for having me again, fellas. Allowing me to rant about tiny imaginary spacemen.
Hey, anytime, Just one more time, one more podcast, you'll be a boy.
That's the dream.
It's the dream.
No longer have to be a Gretchen.
Moving on to the payment system. But we'll catch everyone else next week. Till then.
Later, everyone.